probably about 50 to 75 feet a minute. So you're spending probably 2 minutes of your dive just going out and coming back.
And how long would the dive be then? I don't dive, so how much time have you got? Cause I know you have to start your timer to see
As a
if you're in the water.
real quick rule of thumb, with when you're scuba diving, again, go get trained, but the you know, if you want to go diving, but the rule of 120 with air. So what you do is you take your depth and your time, and shouldn't exceed 120. So if you want to do a dive to 100 feet, you've got approximately 20 minutes bottom. That doesn't include your ascent. So your dive would be maybe a 25-30 minute dive, right? Depending on how you do it. So there are ways of extending that as well, though. So that's the bowsprit of the Katie Eccles. That's my dive buddy Steve Mueller right there. Gives you a little bit of an idea of the size of it. The bowsprit actually still comes out to here, and if you look, the viz that day was spectacular. But the water, I think, was 42 degrees.
that means the algae and stuff wasn't growing. So.
Yeah, none of that was there yet. So I'm going diving tomorrow, as long as the weather holds out, and I'm not suspecting we're going to have any visibility at all. So just because of all the rain we've had, right? So, but that's why I say is if you get out there early, like that is one of the most photogenic bowsprits that there probably is in Ontario. It's a beautiful, beautiful dive. So the China, getting back to you, Herb. The China here I think it was on its maiden voyage. I have to go check that one, but it burned to the water line. And the cool thing about this one is you've got the prop, and then in here this is basically the engine, and then you got the boilers that sit up in here as well. So it's pretty neat. Now this one sits. I don't know whether it burned more on one side or because it's sort of standing fairly straight. But what happens is there's about that much right there that's sticking out on the starboard side, which is your right side looking forward, and then it's probably taller than this room sticking out on the other side. And it doesn't look like it's burnt to the water line on that side. So I think what ended up happening is it sort of was centralized, or it was centered on one side of the wreck that it was burning as opposed to the whole thing. So
Passenger?
do you remember the history on it all? They all blur in my mind. They all blur into my mind. So just a little plug for the museum here. They have the books over here. Okay, the blue books by William Willis Metcalf. Okay. There are other books as well, but that is one of my go-to books right there. So $10 and you can have one of your own. So okay, so yeah, but beautiful. China's one of my favorite wrecks to dive. Okay, because most of the wrecks here in Ontario you can't see. You go up to Tobermory, and the closest one I think that would be up in Tobermory is probably the city of Cleveland. But it's spectacular to be able to see right from the propeller right straight through to the boilers. Because most times when they scuttle them, anything's worth any money gets pulled off them, right? So you look and you go, well, is this really, like, you're saying it's a steamship, but there's no prop on it, like there's no boiler. It depends on how easy the boiler was to get out of them as well, right? There's one down in Kingston, the boilers, on the Comet, the boilers would almost be probably from here to the wall wide. There's two of them sitting side by side. So this is our rendering of it here. So you can see the boiler up here, you can see the engine here, and then you can see right through to the prop, and then the blocks out here. And like I said, it's sticking up on that side as well. Pretty good. I think the fire was sort of on that side right there is where they ended up having problems. So the olive branch. So we've seen the olive branch before. We've changed our format. We've now got the map in behind. Makes it harder for people because they were taking and copying our stuff. And the only stipulation we have is that if you're going to use our maps or use our sketches, is that you leave the description in the corner block in there, okay? And what we were getting people taking these out, taking, pulling that out, and then pasting it, and then, so all we're asking for is just acknowledgement, that we did the work, right, so. So that's the olive branch, again, that one's, oh, I did the Katie, so the olive branch is really nice. This one, I got the video for this in under 10 minutes, under 15 minutes, so it's pretty cool. Now, when we're shot line diving, that right there is a scuba weight. It's about a 3-pound scuba weight, and what we do is basically, we've got an H made out of 2x4s, and then we just wrap it with, I like cave line, and cave line is braided, and underwater twisted line is one of the worst things, because all those twists come undone, so you end up with 3 individual lines going straight to the bottom. So if you have braided line, it's less susceptible to abrasion. It doesn't come undone. So we weren't using my line that day, but that's how close we can hit when we're going over top with the boat. We watch for the outline of the wreck, and then we throw the shot line. The idea behind using a small weight like that is it gets it to the bottom, but what happens is it isn't heavy enough to damage the wreck if it hits it, right? So, like if you had a 20-pound anchor and threw it over, it could very easily go through the deck. Most times we don't actually hit the wreck. All we need to be is probably within 20 or 30 feet of the wreck, right? So we go over it when we see it, we throw it, and it takes time to unravel itself. And then in the H form, it just takes and lays there on the surface and just bobs. So there isn't like all this line, like as you can see, it's not tight, but it's pretty snug, right? So the anti-falconer, this is actually the bow right here. Okay. And if we had Doug here, he could tell us, but I think at one point there's anchors, there's an anchor that's here, and there's an anchor that's over here. I think there was talk that they were looking at getting permission to take and cut those anchors and drop them to the bottom, just to alleviate some of the weight so it didn't splay out as much, right? So, but in the time that I've been diving, it probably sat up more like that, and it's laid right out, so. The beauty about our cold waters is it preserves this stuff better than, like, this would have been long gone in the ocean because of the microbes that they can eat away at it and stuff like that, right? But that's the beauty about our cold waters here, right? So this one's about 80 feet right to the muck. So it's an okay wreck. I prefer the deeper stuff just because you get better visibility. So these ones were taken in the spring and the visibility still wasn't all that great, right? So the Florence, I've shown you, have I shown you a picture? I think I showed you the deck picture of that as part of the photogrammetry stuff. That's the one piece right there on the deck. So I did that and then Tom's drawn this beforehand. But this one is the one that they brought into shore and they tried salvage and stuff off of it, right? So these are actually, I think they're floats that they had that they were trying to float the whole thing in with, right? So when we're out diving, I always give everybody a challenge on this one. There's a sink, so it's a big porcelain sink. I don't think I could probably lift it if it was on land. Like it's the old industrial style, that we used to have like years and years and years ago. And it sits probably more like right out here, and it's a little bit tricky to find, so I always get, this isn't one of my favorite wrecks. It's in 35, 40 feet of water. So like you go there, it's really nice and warm, but you can't see a whole lot. So if you find the sink, it's sort of like, like I'll give you a pat on the back when we're on the dive boat because you actually found the sink. So, but yeah, so that's the Florence. And then this is the deck portion that I was talking about. So these are the kinds of things that you can do right here with the 3D. So you can actually zoom in, you can take a look at stuff. What I end up with here isn't nearly the quality that I end up with on my computer when I run the stuff through. We ran into a problem with Sketchfab uploading because you're only allowed to upload 250 megabytes. Well, my models are probably 2 gig in size, so because we don't sell anything online, because we don't allow anybody to put sales on our websites and our Facebook page, they've granted us basically heritage sort of status, which is sort of, that made it better. They gave us more space to be able to do stuff, right? Part of our thing too is we actually put plaques out, so this is one of the plaques here that we put out.
So that's underwater?
So that's underwater, yeah. So, with the assistance of the Canadian Coast Guard and the Ontario Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries. So that's the Florence. So that sits just, if we go back here to, I'm going the wrong direction, I think. So the Florence, that, we've got that sitting about here, and the block would be sitting over here. So you swim in, you take and have something to see before you get there, and then you swim into the wreck, so. The Oliver Mowat. So the Oliver Mowat, I dove it in about 2018. We did it an evening after work along with the RH Ray, I think. So my buddy took his boat down to Point Traverse, and we launched out of there. We dove both of those, and that's where we were able to do the sketch from. So right now they're doing a survey on it. So.
And it's off timber as well?
It's off. It's closer to the Red Boy out by Main Duck. So now, if I had my buddy Steve here, he'd be able to say that, well, that's K9 or whatever. But I'm just like, hey, there's a red thing out there, right? So again, what they say I do, I dive, right? Like that's my thing. The Mariner thing came like as a secondary thing, right? So I can go diving. So Fabiola. So this is one we're putting the block on. So we're putting the block on the Oliver Mowat this year. It's sitting there waiting for the ministry or for the Coast Guard to come along and drop the block. Fabiola is also set up for a block as well, so it's ready to go for a block. So those will be two new dive sites either later this year or early next year that we have. So. This one's about 65 feet of water, so you have to watch. I like going to it when the water makes your face sting, because that's the time of year you can actually see stuff really well in this. It's small enough too. I think it's about 70 feet, so on a good day you can see the full thing early in the spring. So the P-51 Mustang that Captain Barry Newman, and if you want to go around the corner here, they've got a write-up on about that. Canadian Harvard Aircraft Association has been searching for parts, and CBC did an interview with Mike McAllister about that. I'm one of the divers that was on the initial dives for this as well. Again, like we had proper permission to be searching. We applied for the license and everything else like that. What ends up happening is when you do something along this lines, one of the stipulations is because they did not recover the officer, if we come across any remains whatsoever, everything is stopped. And we're reported to the OPP and probably the military as well. So we have not come across any remains, which is
You have located it?
there have been, yes, we have definitely got stuff. I think the next slide you're gonna see a little bit. So I when I go out and do these dives, I can't talk about them until they've made public the information. So everything you're seeing is stuff that's public. Okay, so it's stuff that we did. They did at Shipwrecks back in the early spring. I think it was March or something like that. So Shipwrecks up in Welland. So a friend of mine donated this to me, but I've got from the archives in Ottawa the actual original crash report. Okay. Now the interesting thing is I've compared it to what CHA has as well, and I've made mine available to CHA. And if you look in there, I've actually stated, that's actually stating where I got these pictures from, because I didn't want them to accuse me of having used their pictures, right? So, but those were actually donated to me for me to curate, so to speak, right? So, there's a couple pictures. So as you can see, they did recover some things. So the parts that we're looking for right now, There's an engine that's out there, I mean, that's sort of the holy grail if you were able to find it. There's, I think, one wing, and there's parts of the fuselage, right, so that are still out there. I've got more pictures of than just those two as well, but I just sort of put those in for examples. So yeah, anyways, there is still work being done on that as well. And really, if you need more information, I think Mike McAllister is the person to take and talk to about that. I'm just going to, in the next slide, show you the kinds of things that we are looking for when we're doing that, because this is stuff that was made public at the shipwrecks. They were playing the video there. So when I go and do these dives, what we do is we all collaborate. So I have the video from the other divers, they have my video, and we give it all to CHA as well. So I have video that's basically that I would own, but I've donated that to CHA so they can do it as they need. And it's actually made it to the ministry so they can apply for other permits. Right? So, and I'll leave it at that. And you can sort of read between the lines on what those other permits might be for. So this is me here. You don't need to hear that. And what I've got there is I've got a navigator. Okay, and this is one of the tools that they use to take and find the parts. That's actually a full-blown computer, and this is one of the parts that we ended up finding. So the whole process here, and I don't get involved in that, but it gets taken to archaeologists. The archaeologists take and look at it and go, what part of a plane could that be from? We think it may be this, or that looks like someone's jettisoned it over the side of their sailboat, you know what I'm saying?
It's
So
awful hard how do they tell the Ness's zebra mussels crushed into it? How do they figure?
I'm showing you like 15 seconds. We took about 5 minutes worth of video here. So from every angle, like, and again, we do no touch, right? So like when we're doing this, like we didn't touch anything, like, because if we look here, it's actually replay it here. So there's parts of this that like we looked at, and you just don't touch because you don't want to mess up the permit, but you're looking and you're going, that looks an awful lot like leather. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's a part in here that looks like, that part looks like leather to me, sort of bunched up. You know what I'm saying? So or like a material of some sort or something like that, but you can't, yeah, it's soft, so but we can't touch until you have permission to retrieve, or like they may take and give you a permission to take and remove a little bit of the zebra mussels to see what kind, like whether it's metal or whether it's, there's another one that sticks out of the bottom, and it sticks out about that tall, and it sort of comes up on an angle like that, obviously something that's man-made. We couldn't touch it, but like I was sitting there going, oh, I wish like it had a magnet, because like if it's steel or aluminum, right? Like it was a metal of some sort, but like you can't touch. Like, so you don't want to mess it up so that you can't do the next step later on, right? So so that's one of the things when we're doing these dives. We make sure that everybody's abiding by all the rules, right? And everybody reads the permits for us, right? So before we go in the water, and we carry those on the boat with us, right? So these are illegal to dive in Ontario. The Edmund Fitzgerald is actually a grave site, so it's also 500 feet deep. So it takes most people out of the. You know, if I'm in the 1%, there's like a 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and I'm nowhere near that. So, so the Hamilton and the Scourge, they're two 1812 warships, and they're just off of Hamilton, and they actually have radar that they monitor those with.
And they're
So-
untouchable, what, because of their age, or they grades again?
Because they're US, they're still,
The US property.
US still claims property to them. There's, so let's put it this way, if you Google, an act of civil disobedience, you can read about the Hamilton Scourge. They're 300 feet deep, okay, and there's a bunch of guys that went out, found a way around the radar, and went and dove them. And this is back 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 15, 20 years ago.
And you got
So
caught.
they publish their stuff, that's the problem, that's part of the problem too, is that nothing ever comes of it, right? So, like, one of the frustrating parts that I have is that we do our darndest to preserve this stuff, and then, like, the government has a different set of rules for when they're doing stuff. And we will go off camera and we can have a chat about that, but just some of the stuff I've heard right from them about what they did up with the Herberus and the Terror, right, is I'll leave it at that. So if you're interested in diving, where do you start? So first thing I do is I go and find a good instructor. I don't care what agency it is, but if the instructor is not good, you're not gonna get a good education, okay? It is your life, so go and ask questions, right, if you're interested in doing diving. Get trained, okay, and basically once you get trained, start to dive. And that's, we were doing, when I'm a teacher now, but when I was, before I was a teacher, it was either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, depending on the year. After work, we left, tore like madmen, went down, jumped on a dive boat, went out and dove during the week, right? So I had a young family at the time. My kids are basically out of the house, so I got a little bit more leeway now. So I was trying to keep the weekends open for my kids, right? So I got to dive in every. So I started creating my own club that way. So, but yeah. So and then just go and have fun. So that was out on the. I can't remember which wreck we were diving. It was one of the Prince Edward County here. That's, you know, Sue?
Yeah, that was just on Helen's dive there, or July
it was.
1st dive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
because that's how, or that's Sue,
that's not the,
that was the Florence.
no, it's not Florence, it was, I think it was, might have been China that we were on anyways.
So
hanging
just a
over
few
the
weeks
line.
ago.
Just a few weeks ago, yeah. So what ends up happening is we do a fundraiser, and we've done all kinds of things. We've sold plants and we've sold things like this, and I brought some of these if you wanna take one, sort of as a souvenir, but the the best way of raising money we found was getting Helen in the water. Helen is a dive boat operator. She has, how many dive boats?
5 now.
Yeah, about 5 dive boats,
Yeah.
but the biggest,
She doesn't dive.
best kept secret is she doesn't dive, right? So, so she goes, come on down here, Brockville, Picton, Rockport, dive with Abacus, scuba diving, right? And then so the best way we found is like people are like throwing money at her. If you want to, we want to see her in the water. So we raised, I think it was about $1,500 this summer. So, and getting her in the water, right? So anyways, it's sort of funny. So I do run an underwater photography course as well. Most of the photographs that have been, I think I've tried to point out the ones that weren't mine and whose they were, but all the photographs have basically been mined through this. I'm just using a GoPro, guys. So, like, I know guys that I'm diving with, and they have great big, like the housings for the camera are $5,000 or $6,000 or more, right? And like literally, I went and cut a piece of channel out, aluminum channel to keep it light, and I've got handles on it, and I've got a dome, and I've got, I do 2 GoPros at a time, and I've done all my stuff with that. So all these pictures, even that above and below right there is done with the GoPro. So what I do is I go through my settings, the things that I've learned along the way. So my camera settings. I also sometimes teach photography courses in my other part of my life. So I'm not an expert photographer by any stretch of the imagination, but what I've done is I've found some tips and techniques that can make anybody a better photographer. Okay. So what in
I used to teach black and white development.
So what I end up doing is I like, if you know your photography triangle, right, then everything basically falls into place after that, right? So it's pretty straightforward. It isn't that hard to do. So I mean, it's you just need lighting and camera settings and yeah. Anyways, it's so. There's computer hardware considerations as well if you want to get into the 3D stuff. One of the guys I have on Shotline Diving on the US side, he was complaining he was going to burn his laptop out because he was doing renders and the renders were taking like several days, okay? And I said, you need to get a real computer, like, because I think he had a Samsung something or other, right? But it was, like, again, this is more of a workstation. It isn't it's a gaming one, but it's more of a workstation than it is like a laptop, really. I don't do it on this either. The one that I bought, I put a little bit of money into, and I could buy a lot bigger and a lot better, but my renders are probably taking like 10th of the time. So he went out and bought a new computer. He's like, hey, I can do all kinds of stuff with this, right? So that was my previous life. I was actually an IT manager. So. And then post-processing. I actually don't do a whole lot of post-processing, so like Photoshop, okay? I do not do a whole lot of Photoshop. A lot of people do a lot of Photoshop. I will crop, generally, is what I do. If I didn't get it in the picture, I don't want to try and drag it out of the picture. So I try and get as good a picture as I can with everything right up front. So I've run that twice, and I've had some pretty good feedback about that. So I've done that online. So part of the education here is the Nautical Archaeology Society is one of the things too that I didn't mention. To be able to do a survey, you've got to be certified by them. Is usually for anything underwater. And so I've got my NAS 1, so I'm looking for projects so I can do my NAS 2, and then eventually I'd be able to lead my own projects is sort of where I want to go with all this, right? So I should really move this slide up in the previous stuff. So benefits for Prince Edward County. So scuba diving brings tourism. Okay. Has anybody been to Tobermory?
Public presentation will be over shortly.
What is Tobermory like this time of year? Well, I can't imagine what December and January are like up there, but if you think this time of year is cold, but sorry, what did you say? Busy, yes, it is busy, okay, and the dock down there with scuba divers is like busy. I was talking with a guy and he runs a dive shop. They have one of the whole hotels or motels booked, everything in it, like because of they're going there, and what do they do when they go there? Well, the people that are coming from Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal typically, so they have to stop at the local eateries here, right? So in Wapoos, there's the little place that's just on the corner there. I can't think of the name of it. Just around the corner from the, what's that?
Stella's.
Is it Stella's? Yeah. So, and there's all the wineries and everything else like that these guys are, when they get out of the water, are going to do, right? So. Local hotels, motels, hostels. There's a hostel just down the road that seems to be popular with bed and breakfast. They're all being used, right? These are bringing tourism dollars to Prince Edward County. Okay. The locals like me probably don't bring a whole lot of money because I drive through here, do my stuff, and then I drive back. Right. I might, if someone invites me, I might go and into town and have wings or something like that with them, but usually it's, like I'm not the kind of guy that's bringing a whole lot of money to the area, right? Because my money's getting spread around the whole area, not right here specifically. But the guys that are coming, to give you a bit of an idea, to do a dive out on Lake Ontario. Now, Helen will probably not like it because I'm probably not, it's about $145 for 2 tanks. So that's, give or take, I wouldn't write that in the paper sort of thing, right? The price, I just, so these people that are coming, they're here to spend money, right? So, and again, sometimes they're just driving through and they're grabbing something at the, Metro in Picton or whatever, but like they are spending money here, right? So, I mean, this could be the next Tobermory, really, and a lot closer because people go, oh, I hate driving the Tobermory, but then I take them out. And again, I tend to have a little bit of a sense of humor when I'm out there, right? We take them out to Katie Eccles, we'll take them out to the, City of Sheboygan, and they're probably two of the nicest wrecks, or maybe, and then what I do is I go, Hal, next time we bring them, we'll take them to the nice wrecks, right? Well, there's nicer ones than these, and they come out with grins on their faces already from ear to ear, right? So, what I try and do is I try and get them to come back, right, so.
I remember the last time I went to Tobermory, I took a tour on a boat that took us to, I think, an island nearby.
Flower pot, yeah.
Yeah, the flower pot. But then, before we went in that direction, they took a little tour inside one of the bays, like let's say Picton Harbor kind of thing. I'm really not remembering this very well. But it was kind of one of the quieter bays, and there was a wreck there that was completely, had been restored like the year before or something, but it was so shallow that you were able to see it from the boat.
The sweepstakes, I think, is the name of
Yeah,
that.
it was.
Yeah, so, yeah, unfortunately here, we don't have anything that I know of. If anybody local here knows of a wreck that we could do that with, and we need a glass bottom boat for that, of course, but the really cool thing is we were out doing the Florence, and we were doing it mid-COVID, and, you know, we were doing all sort of cloak and dagger and stuff like that because of COVID, and so we're dropping boats in the water, going out, and we're looking, and we're like, yeah, I guess it was early, and maybe the next year, it was the year before we did that, but we're out, and I'm like, I'm sure it's a little bit further down here, because we didn't have bottom imaging at that point. So what ends up happening is Helen goes, I'm sure it's here. She looks down and goes, there it is right there. So in 35 feet of water, we could see it in the spring of the year from actually the boat. So there are some things that, and there's stuff out here that hasn't, like I'm in touch with one of the original divers in this area, and there's stuff out here we don't even have. We haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg on what's out here. So to learn more and get involved, Save Ontario Shipwrecks, you can go there. To be honest, there is some information there, but you're going to find more if you go to us on Ontario Diving. That's current anyways, right? Because when I go out, I take and I put my pictures up, okay? And then like people are taking and contacting Advocates Scuba to go diving because they see my pictures that are out there, right? So shotline diving is a good place as well. If you're looking for information on a specific wreck, you can go there and either go through the pins on the thing. Shoot us an email, because that's how we end up finding that airboat. Is someone sent an email and said there's something down here. Tom went out, I think it was last Tuesday. He was wanting me to go out, and my life's just been a whirlwind, so I wasn't able to go out, but yeah, so when we posted the stuff, right, but that was on a tip from someone local in probably Clayton, New York, so. Nautical Archaeology Society has some information there as well, right, so that's specifically about getting certified and stuff like that, so. Reporting underwater fines, so you gotta go to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, okay? They've got paperwork that you fill out, and then you send it in to them, right, so. Under Canadian law, there is a receiver to a wreck, okay? So anything that's underwater, specifically shipwrecks, there will be a receiver to that. So there is an owner, and sometimes like you'll look it up and it'll be Lloyd's of London, and Lloyd's of London will still own it, right? Sometimes it's the Canadian government, right, if it's something that's, but there is somebody that always owns the stuff underwater, so, you know, taking and looking and going, oh, I see that shipwreck out there and I'd really like to have that ship's wheel.
Yeah.
There's somebody that owns that, okay, and it could be the Ontario government, okay?
So if you take anything, you're stealing.
If you take anything, you're stealing, right, so, and that's the reason why I put the OPP down, because the OPP is probably the people you should contact if you know anything that's going on, right, so. There was a real sort of tragedy, I think, that happened a couple years ago. One of the local guys here, fishermen, ended up helping one of the tall ships get, basically, I think, if I remember right, it was probably like a ship's wheel or windlass or something. I don't think it was windlass, I think it was ship's wheel, but it had a bunch of gears and stuff on it. And I saw it and it was getting sandblasted, okay? So, again, I contact the ministry, I contact him and got a whole bunch of nasty stuff back, so I contact the ministry, letting them know what's going on. And my suggestion was, why don't we take and actually do something that's proactive here, okay? This person is in possession of something that they shouldn't have, and again, my thoughts on it were, what should happen is it probably, you can't just throw it back in the water, like in a lot of places, that's what you would do, but this was actually a boat anchoring, like on the nautical maps, it was a place, it was a safe port to anchor your boat. So throwing on the bottom was just gonna sink in the silt and never be seen again. But my suggestion was, why don't we take and come alongside this guy, take like an organization like SOS, okay, an organization like the Mariners Museum, the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, and why don't we all get together and have a nice press release on how it's been donated, and we'll do all the paperwork to make it official and stuff like that. One of the things that disappointed me is I never got anything back from the
I
ministry.
don't really care.
So, so while we have laws, again, like when I found out, like I initially thought it was pulled up and then, I initially thought it was a little bit more mischievous than it was, but it was actually tied up in a tall ship's anchor and it was actually creating a problem for that, right, for that ship, right? So I actually went through and contacted the captain of the ship, I think it was, or the company that owned it anyways, and they gave me the more details, and I sort of went into it, but yeah, that was a little bit on the disappointing side. It was, the Mariners Museum would have been closed down because it was later fall, like when all this started to go down, like I think it happened during the summer, but then I started, like, it was being sent to a place to be sandblasted during the fall, so anyways, it was just a little bit disappointing, because it could have been like a nice addition for the museum here. So, it was actually closer to Kingston, so maybe the museum down there as well, so, but one of them would have been nice.
So it ended up in a private collection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, or on someone's front lawn. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed